In this video, I'm going to walk through how to use Procreate to create your line drawing for your next art piece. This is exactly how I use this application. When you first open it up, you're going to see all the images that you've been using in the application. I've already got the photo that I'm going to be drawing from right now ready to go. This is by no means a complete tutorial on how to use Procreate. There's just way too many options in here. This will help you as an artist to understand how you could use it to create your next line drawing. So the first thing to know is I've got gallery, which is right where we were a moment ago. And then I've got some specialty controls right here. My paintbrush, smear tool, eraser, and layers. I've got line thickness and the paintbrush opacity right here. I've got a color picker right here, and I've got an undo and a redo, which might be difficult to see right now because it's so dark. If I come over here to my color selection, I've got several different formats to choose from: disc, classic, I've got harmony, value, and palettes where I can create my own palettes. I'm just going to select a color that will show up very well. I can come in here, got a background color of white already. Got my image right here as layer 1, and we could go in there and rename that if you wanted to. Hit the plus button to simply create a new layer. I can come back here. This is the layer that's selected because it's blue. I can come over here to uncheck or check the layer that I want to be able to see and hit the little N to turn down the opacity. Click off of it, make sure that this layer is selected, because I don't want to select this layer and then come in here and start drawing on my image. And then once I uncheck that image, nothing's on the layer that I thought I was drawing on. So I can hit undo to undo this, or I can use 2 fingers. And it just does an edit undo on the state of my project. I can come back over here, make sure I'm on the right layer. And now that I'm on the correct layer, and I've got the layer 1 or the photo layer turned down so that I can see my lines as I'm drawing them, then I'm ready to go. So how much information do I need? I can come over here, we should say really quickly, I'm just on sketching and Derwent pencil. It's one I like. The Procreate pencil is another one that's great. But I can come in here and I've got all sorts of properties that I can mess around with. The taper, the shape, all of these things will help me create the perfect sketching tool for what I'm about to do. If I draw a line and then I hold it for a moment, it will create. Let me try that one more time. I'll do it out here so you can see it better. It will straighten up that line, and then I can move it around if I need to. I can use 2 fingers to undo. I can use 3 fingers, tap 3 fingers to redo. Just save some time rather than going over here and tapping those. All right, so I want the full opacity of this pencil, and I want the full size of the pencil as well. So I can come in here, I can say, okay, I'm going to trace my outline, decide what's important. Now, when I get up into the hair and I start moving over, and by the way, you can use 2 fingers to move the image around any position that you need, and zooming in and out as well. But back here next to the background with the hair, I probably don't need as thick of a line. I certainly don't need that over here by the ear, where I've got the hair that is nearly the same value as the skin. Now, this doesn't have to take a long time, especially if you're just sort of getting a sense of where everything is. I want to try that again and just refine that just a little bit more. That's a nice thing about doing this digitally. You can hit that undo and it's just so easy to redo a section. But that's also the reason why you want to use short controlled strokes and not just one continuous stroke, so that you can correct very quickly. There's little segments then where you have lifted the pencil off of the surface, and that creates a new edit segment each time. Now I need to keep thinking about how much information do I need? What is my final result going to look like? And that informs how many lines and where those lines need to be placed. So I'm relying on my drawing knowledge and my anatomy knowledge when I'm creating this outline. So stick with the essentials. Only put the essential lines that you need in there. And then the placement of these lines make a huge difference. And I'll talk about that in just a moment when we get to the lips. But I can also check where I am in the drawing by unchecking the photo layer and observing what my outline is looking like. Check it back again, hit that toggle one more time, come down here. Now I probably am adding more information than I really need for the beard, and that may be some information that I take out later. But just to show you in this demonstration what is possible. I mean, you could go in here, you could go crazy, and you could just add every little hair in here, but where would the fun be if you did that? Let me zoom in here on the lips. Where is my line going to be? On the outside of the lips or on the inside of that edge for the lips? That's extremely important that you determine what your line means when you make the mark. So I can't stress that enough. My recommendation would be that you make your mark most of the time on the outside of where that value ends. So I'm making my mark on where the lip ends, not inside the lip, but on the background, actually, that bluish colored background, because this is a very small, intricate area. Now, the forehead is not quite as small. The nose, you could argue, is not a very small area as well. It's still going to be helpful if I make my marks, most of my marks, on the background. So where that value range is ended. Same way with maybe parts of the nose and the eyes. Obviously, the eyes are going to be very critical in that regard. But what about in this dark shadow over here on the outside edge of the ala, or the wing of the nostril? Well, it's not going to be as important that I get that exactly in a location where I know where that mark is, but it's going to be generally important. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to go in here now and just add maybe a little more information than what I really need, but I think it will be helpful for this demonstration just to show you what is possible. Now, with this eyebrow, I can just get the overall outline. Now, I'm noticing with my forehead, some of the marks on my forehead, now that I'm zooming in here a little bit more, that I want to erase that and just clean up that line just a little bit and put it on the outside edge, like we were talking about with regard to the lips. So I can erase that pretty easily. Go back to my paintbrush tool, or my drawing tool in this case, whichever tip you chose, and just refine that line just a little bit more. Now I want to give myself some boundary areas for the hairline and just determine, where do I see the value shift, the biggest value shifts. So that's a subjective area. This is the reason why you want to create your own outline. Now I can include some of these construction lines right here in the head so that I can see some of the shading for the side plane of the head. Now I want to zoom in here on the eye to show you very carefully the way that I handle the line drawing. I want to outline the edges again as you look at where the eyelash line is. So that's the separation in the value from the upper eyelid. So that's what I'm indicating with my lines. I'm also indicating where that lower eyelid contoured shelf is, or that little tear line is. And then I make some indication on where the eyelashes are. Not always extremely important, but it's something that I do try to indicate from time to time. You can put some more of those construction lines in here if you need them, if you feel like that they'll be important. Now, as we start to get into the clothing, I'm going to speed this up. Go back to the hair in different areas and just refine some of this. Turn off my photo layer just to look at it, to see if I've got all the information. I missed something. kind of important. And I can go back and correct that, looking at the eye and noticing that I forgot to indicate where the iris is. Now, again, it's not critical that I do that, but it's helpful. And I can make that line a little bit thinner even just to give me more information regarding the weight of that particular line. And I can, on the photo layer, increase the opacity so that I can see everything much clearer. And that indicates to me now that I extended the cornea on the iris a little bit farther than probably what I needed. So I can make that correction in here very, very quickly. I can make all these corrections even after I've exported. I can still come back in here and make corrections. Export it as a JPEG. And I like to also export as a PSD or a Photoshop file. So in case I want to make some modifications later on as well with all the layers, I can do that in Photoshop. And now I'm ready to open up my file on my desktop computer and print it on my printer, and then go through the process of transferring that to my drawing surface. I hope you enjoyed this.